Greetings and welcome to our daily walk through the scripture for August the 20th. Your readings today find you in a new book of the Old Testament, Job. We're going to read Job chapter 1, 2, and 3, 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 1 through 17, Psalm 37, 12 through 29, and Proverbs chapter 21, 25 through 26. Now, as always, new book of the Bible, let's talk about Job for a minute. So Job is a pretty fascinating book for a number of reasons. One, it is considered by many to be one of the oldest books of the Bible. Now, where it falls in the Old Testament is not chronological. In fact, Job starts a new section in the Old Testament, and it's really kind of the poetry aspect of it. So you're going to have Job, you're going to have Psalms, you're going to have Song of Songs, you're going to have those kind of books that are going to hit. Ecclesiastes, those are the wisdom books / the poetry books. And so as you look at the story of Job, don't think of it chronologically. This is something that's happening way. As a matter of fact, some scholars have said they give a pretty wide time range. They're like anywhere from 2,000 to 1,800 years before Jesus, okay? So this guy could, in theory, be a contemporary of Abram, okay? So this is a long time ago. But Job has a lot of important aspects of it, and they can honestly help kind of develop some of the theology that we have as followers of Christ, especially when we start thinking about the world of suffering, because we don't like to talk about suffering, do we? We really don't. In fact, more often than not, our idea of suffering is, hey, we just have to endure until the suffering's over. We don't always see the value of the suffering while suffering is happening, especially as Protestants. Now, the Catholic traditions, they do a better job in some ways of dealing with the nature of suffering. They do a good job of it, but Job is instrumental in helping us better understand suffering. Now, Job was written to prove that a man could worship God for who he is and not just what God gives in blessing or reward. And this is important, especially as we go through suffering. We're not going to be worshiping God because what he's going to give us. In other words, God, if I worship you, will you promise to make this go away? Job worships God regardless of the situation. Job worships God because he is God. Also, we learn about some different dangerous perspectives of worship and good and bad and right and wrong that happen in Job, especially when we get into Job's friends and the situation that happens. But Job pretty much has this terrible, no good, awful day, and that's putting it mildly to say the least. It's difficult. But Job was a man who had an incredible life and really one that was blessed. But there's a couple things that I want to point out to you. Okay? One of them is in verse 6 of Job 1. Now, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them. Okay, so there's couple things you need to be aware of. Number one, Satan does not hang out in heaven very often. He has to be allowed to be near the presence of God. Number two, that asks you the question though, well, where does Satan dwell? Satan does not dwell in heaven. Satan does not dwell in hell. Satan is known as the prince of the sky, prince of the earth. He lives here on earth. That might make you a little uncomfortable. That's okay. The other thing that I want you to notice on this is who initiates the afflictions of Job. Now, this is different. Initiate does not mean the one who instigates, who creates the issues. But if you look there, in verse 7, God talks to Satan for a minute, and in verse 8 he says, have you considered my servant Job? So God is the one that brings up Job's name, not Satan. Satan, who was wandering around, as we see in verse 7, to and fro, he wasn't considering Job. God is the one that brought him up. Which means that there are times when God is going to intentionally place us in difficult situations. And these situations are designed to help us grow closer to Him and grow stronger in our faith in God. Our blessings don't come, and we don't need to be looking for our blessings to be coming in material earth. Our blessings come in the fact that we can know and worship the Creator. This is a huge blessing, and it's not one that we should ever minimize or toss away. And this is what I want you to take away from this, is how Job worships God for who he is. And so that's our question for us today. Do we worship God for who he is? Or do we worship God for what he could do for us? The truth is, God has already done for us more than we deserved when Jesus came and died on the cross. That was far more than we deserved. And yet, God is the only one that could have done this. And we need to worship the Creator because he is the Creator, not just because of maybe God will get us out of this situation or maybe God will help me win the lottery. Those are terrible reasons. So, as you read through the book of Job, kind of look at these things. We'll tackle Job coming in and out as we talk about Corinthians a little bit more. But this is a very powerful book. It's got a lot of poetry in it, so just be aware of that. It might be a little difficult to get through at times, but we'll work through that and we'll find the beauty that is the story of Job.